The ultimate office sense or boring nondescripts? Let's find out together. I'm super curious. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances, and this is a first impression comparison between Labo Another 13 and Essential Parfums Bois Impérial. In this video format, I compare and give my first impressions on two fragrances, usually in sample form, that I selected to cover a specific topic. This is not a fragrance battle. We're not here to decide which of the two fragrances is better. We're here to talk about our experience and to open the conversation. You guys in the comments have been requesting these two fragrances for quite some time, and actually one of these two samples has been in my possession for a good while. That one here being Essential Parfums Bois Impérial. I've never smelled this fragrance. I've had this fragrance, again, as a sample in my collection for a long time, but for whatever reason, I wasn't drawn to it. Essential Parfums is objectively a good brand. They offer incredibly good solutions at an awesome price, and Bois Impérial is by far their most popular offering. This one here is often referred to as like a clone of Ganymede. I think it came after, and it's perfumed by the same guy, Quentin Biche. Quentin Biche is a very specific perfumer. He has a very specific DNA, which heavily relies on a molecule called akigala wood. This akigala wood molecule it's good. It's a great molecule. It has a great smell, but it has a very, very specific recognizable smell. And it's basically the core of Ganymede. Now, Ganymede is basically a masterpiece in perfumery. I really, truly think that. And Quentin Biche really excels at perfumes like this, with a modern touch, with a little bit of a clinical vibe. Sometimes these fragrances feel made in a laboratory in the best way possible. Ganymede is very, very clinical. It's clinical to an aggressive degree. It's super specific. It smells like air conditioning. It smells like filtered air. It smells like the inside of a tennis ball tube. It smells like aluminum. It smells like metal. It's very, very weird. Some people say that it smells like outer space. I don't necessarily agree. It might smell like the inside of a spaceship. And once again, I truly believe that Ganymede is a real masterpiece that will stand the test of time. I covered all of the smells that I get from the fragrance, all of my recollections in my full review, so go check that out. But in general, when it comes to Bois Impérial, it's basically known as like the cheap version of Ganymede, the discounted version of Ganymede. And that alone has really put me off the scent, has put me off the curiosity of smelling the scent itself. Now, when it comes to Another 13 by Labo, which is actually this sample here, I was holding this thinking that it was Bois Impérial, but it's actually Another 13. This is a very popular fragrance from the brand, immediately following the success of Santal 33. Another 13 is a fragrance that I've never smelled in my life, despite going through a speed dating episode for Labo. And I don't know why this thing just wasn't in there. I got this sample later. Someone sent it to me, and I'm very, very happy because I'm super curious. I'm not really expecting much. I'm not even expecting to like this. I truly think that I'm not the target audience for this because apparently Another 13 is Le Labo's take on the molecule genre. And if you know me, I'm not a huge fan of molecule scents. I just like my scents to be a little bit more bold, more in your face, more intentional, to have a little bit more of a statement. Molecule scents are those scents which are kind of there but not there. You smell like something very faintly, very elegant, almost like to a clean degree. And I've tried my share of molecule scents. I've tried 3 or 4 from Eccentric Molecules. I've tried Molecule 01, which is apparently ISO Super. That one was okay. It was a little bit boring. It wasn't much to discuss. It was very, very flat. It had this vague woody scent. I've also tried Molecule 02, and that one was very uneventful. I could barely smell a thing. I seem to recall that being ambroxan, and that just confirms how anosmic to ambroxan I am. Ambroxan is one of those things that I smell and I perceive that there's something in the air, but I just can't smell anything. It's a thing that I keep referring to as empty volume. It smells like I'm smelling canned air, like CO2. It's like there but not. It doesn't have any presence, anything. I recognize it as a volume, but it doesn't have a flavor. It's really underwhelming to me. It's almost upsetting because when fragrances use a lot of ambroxan, basically to me, these fragrances appear as empty, cheap, and sterile. One of the fragrances that has a ton of ambroxan that I can barely smell is Baccarat Rouge 540. And I know for a fact that being a monster fragrance, I can barely detect it, so who knows. I've also tried a couple more, but again, they were all fairly bland and fairly nondescript. In general, I'm just not a fan of molecule type scents. I like my fragrances to be bold, edgy, characterful, with a lot of body and presence. Again, I totally get the appeal. Spraying stuff like this on, you'll just come across as clean, well put put together, slightly scented, but with a fragrance which is subtle and seamlessly blending into the environment, especially in an office environment or at work. These would work exceedingly well in professional environments, maybe office, maybe anything work, and even in countries that tend to look down upon fragrances, like Japan and Switzerland. I know for a fact that my buddy Curtis, which lives in Japan, he wears a lot of Another 13 just because it's so likable, so subtle, and low-key. So yeah, these fragrances are for the person that wants to go under the radar. And by the way, as I said, I've never smelled these fragrances, so I might be mistakenly associating these two to molecule style scents. I'm pretty sure that Another 13 is a molecule style, but Bois Impérial actually might have a lot of punch. If it's anything like Ganymede, it's very, very potent. Except for the fact that Ganymede, with all its potency, still comes across as something environmental. It's very, very weird. Anyway, I'm super curious to get these on skin. Let's get right into it. But before we start, let me just super quickly remind you how this format works. I'll be spraying these two fragrances first on paper to properly simulate application on clothing, which for fragrances of this type might be super important. After that, I'll be moving on to skin. I'll be spraying on my left arm and right arm, and I'll be talking about the very first opening, giving my very first impressions. After that, I'll be stepping away for about 2 to 3 hours. I have some stuff to do, and when I come back, I'll give my impressions on the wear experience, the transition, the evolution. I'll give my forecasted longevity, forecasted use cases, and finally recommendations and value for money. Let's get right into it because these are two very hyped fragrances and I'm dying to know what they smell like. All right, I think we started off with the Labo Another 13. Unfortunately, as you may be able to see, I don't have much in here. This was actually an official Labo sample. It was one of those tiny 1 ml dabber samples that I decided to put in a spray bottle like this. And it just came down to the fact that there's really not much in there. Maybe I wasted some, maybe I poured some on the table. I'm not really sure, but this is what we got. This is what we're gonna work with. So I'm gonna be spraying one spray on a strip to see what it's like. I'm not expecting much because again, if this is a molecule type scent, it might smell like pretty much nothing. I haven't looked at the notes for this. I'm not sure if it's Iso Super, if it's Ambroxan or any other thing. It might be Cashmeran. I'm not really sure. In the air though, I am kind of smelling something. At least there's that, so I can talk about it fairly safely. So it's obviously super light. It's very, very airy. And as crazy as it sounds, I think that I smelled more of the spray in the air than on paper. On paper, it's almost invisible. There's something there, but it's very, very faint. Again, I'm not too surprised. I kind of knew what this was about. I've heard people talk about this, and I've heard that people actually layer this, both with Le Labo scents and other scents in general. So yeah, maybe it does act like a molecule type scent. It's actually kind of floral. I'm smelling this woody, floral, soft, musky thing. It's super light, but it has a fairly pleasant smell. It smells like not like clean sheets. It kind of smells like paper. It has a little bit of a wet paper sort of smell, but a tiny bit more floral. And I'm not saying wet newspaper because that smells like rancid and bitter, but it has a tiny tinge of that weird woodiness. And paper and wood have a lot of smell components in common, and it smells definitely like that. I'm picturing this paper thin sheet of very, very light wood, almost transparent. It kind of smells like rice paper. It's very, very subtle, very, very timid, and very desaturated. It's like an off yellow color, like an off white going towards yellow. It's very, very faint. It also kind of smells like dust, not in a powdery sense, like not in a makeup sense, like actual dust. It smells like someone has been beating a carpet or something like that. And dust has this specific dry smell to it. Very, very strange. Wow. It's kind of reminding me of a fragrance by Diptyque that I've sampled quite some time ago now. I think it was called Eau Papier or something like that. And that is like the stronger version of that. And that is saying a lot because Eau Papier is incredibly faint. This is very, very fleeting. Again, maybe I haven't sprayed enough. Maybe this little paper here is absorbing a lot of that smell. Maybe I'm imagining stuff. I'm really hoping that this develops a lot more on skin. It's incredibly, really not my thing, I have to say. I respect it as a scent, I respect the concept, but I would never buy this, especially at Le Labo prices. If I really concentrate, there's also something a little bit musky and maybe floral. It feels like a pillow. It feels like some sort of a furriness, but it has this slightly very, very light floral touch, maybe like magnolia, something like a white floral, which is like velvety. And that velvety touch of the petals kind of mixes in with the muskiness of this pillow-like substance. It's very particular, but it's so faint, so in the background. Yeah, again, we do have to remember that these are Le Labo prices. So we're talking like over $200 for 100 ml. That's pretty much crazy if you think about a fragrance like this. In my opinion, this is like completely overpriced. Yeah, there's no way in hell that I'm gonna be spending $250 on something like this. I'm completely accepting of the fact that it might be anosmic or partially anosmic to something that's in here, and that is grossly affecting the way I perceive this scent. And I truly believe that this could smell absolutely amazing on some skin chemistries, on some people, but on me, I would end up overspraying the crap out of this just to get something and probably still not get anything. If nothing, I would be even overcharging my nose. I would be making myself even more anosmic. So yeah, I do respect it. I respect the idea. And I do think that if you buy something like this, you have to kind of trust in the perfume. You have to trust in the brand, trust in the perfume to deliver what they're saying that they deliver. This is a little bit too faint for me. It's a little bit too riding that thin line of placebo. Again, I'm not even sure I'm smelling what I'm smelling. I get a lot of like paper and a lot of dusty smell, but is it actually this paper here or is it the fragrance? I'm not really sure. And that weird furry sort of a pillowy magnolia or white flower thing, is it even in there? I'm not really sure. I think that's it for now. I'm ready to move on to Bois Impérial. I'm hoping that that will be a lot more potent, and I'm actually hoping that this little tiny sample of an R13 on my skin will develop much more. All right, Bois Impérial, let's get our strip. Let's give it one spray just to be fair. Pretty nice sprayers here. Yeah, this is much more potent. I can already pick it up in the air. I'm already smelling that very distinctive Ganymede style note. But it's actually quite different. Weird. I was expecting like a cheap Ganymede, like a knockoff of Ganymede, but this is actually quite different. It's really nice. I'm super familiar with Ganymede, by the way. I have a bottle of that. I even have a bottle of the clone, which is by Gritti Supernova. That one there is like a greener version of Ganymede, but it has the same core to it. I think it doesn't have Akigala wood because that is probably trademarked by Givaudan. But it smells very, very similar. It has the same air conditioning smell. And this, for whatever reason, it doesn't have that in such a prominent way. It's obviously there. It again smells a little bit like filtered air. It smells very metallic. It smells like the inside of a tour bus, but it's way less synthetic. So Ganymede is intentionally synthetic, and that is actually one of the reasons why I said that Quentin Biche is really excellent at doing that sort of perfumery. He has this very modern touch to stuff. This one here is a lot less plasticky. It's a lot less metallic. It's more natural smelling, while being incredibly clinical, incredibly clean. It smells a lot more like wood. It smells a lot more like soft, white, pale wood. It has a very similar sensation to the R13, but this is like the stronger version of an R13. Take that, make it stronger, and inject a little bit of that bitter syntheticness in here. This is really nice, actually. And it's fairly radiant. It's really, really interesting. I totally get the hype. This is a very addicting smell. It's almost teasing me with notes that come and go. You have a little bit of woodiness, which is there, and then it's gone again. A little bit of florals, which are there, and then they're gone. That synthetic metallic note shows its face, and then it's gone. They all kind of alternate. It feels very, very modern, almost very futuristic. This smells like the smell of the future. This smells like a really clean, like sterile, clean environment, something that has been vacuum cleaned or hoovered or maybe even steam blasted. It smells like furniture that is been recovering from the steam, something which is scented but very, very faintly. It smells chemically clean, like sterile in the best way possible. Again, it smells really, really good. It smells like a clean carpet. I can't explain it well, like clean, non-synthetic carpet. So if you buy a carpet from IKEA, you get this very plasticky smell. It's very overwhelming. It smells like dyes. This does not smell like that. This smells like a carpet that has been laying in a beautifully clean apartment, and the carpet has freshly been vacuum cleaned or even steam cleaned. It's way more shampoo-like than Ganymede. The Ganymede is extremely dry. This has a tinge of something sweet, like something sweet and musky. It has a tiny bit of a clean towel feeling. Again, it might be like a sweet musk. It might be some sort of a very, very delicate floral. It might be like the natural sweetness of wood. And again, I'm pretty sure that this is mostly Akigala wood because it's Quentin Biche and because it's known to be that. But it's really nice. And thinking about Quentin Biche, thinking about what he's good at doing, stuff like this, stuff like Ganymede, I'm immediately brought back to Amouage Decision, a fragrance by Quentin Biche, which I was pretty disappointed by. I think that Amouage in that case took Quentin Biche's prowess, something like this, and they injected a lot of Amouageness in it. They tried to embellish it. But by doing so, by adding that vanilla, by adding that frankincense, they just weighed the scent down, killing the freshness, killing the clinicalness, killing the modernity of the scent itself. And actually, that Quentin Biche modern style of approach doesn't really work with Amouage at all. It doesn't work with the warmth and the soulfulness of Amouage. I truly think that there are two styles which are completely incompatible. Quentin Biche should be doing stuff like this. This is really, really nice. Stuff like Ganymede, which is objectively a masterpiece. And I can totally see how this is one of the best-selling niche fragrances in countries like Italy. From the reports of the Italian vendor 15ml.it, which is by far the biggest Italian vendor, this is always their bestseller year after year. And I can totally see why. This is very, very likable. It's office safe. It's really, really nice. I need to put this on skin. I might even like it a little bit more than Ganymede. All right, skin time. Let's start off with another 13. I'll be putting this on my left arm. I think I'm gonna be spraying the remaining of the sample. Again, it's not much. I might be getting 3 good sprays. That's enough. All right, let's see what this is all about. Hopefully it really develops on my skin. This is a weird scent. It's so faint, it's so fleeting. It has this ghastly presence. It's very difficult to pinpoint. It's very difficult to hold down and describe. On my skin, I'm happy to report that it's actually way more present. It's a lot more vivid. It's a lot more bodied. It smells different. It smells different than on paper. On paper, it was barely detectable. On my skin, it's fairly obvious. On my skin, it's smelling a lot more like sandalwood, something that I was not picking up on paper whatsoever. Or rather, it might have been that weird paper woody thing that wasn't mixing well with the paper, but on my skin, the sandalwood is incredibly obvious. It smells like, it has this creaminess to it. It smells very smooth. It smells like a yogurt, like a sandalwood yogurt. I know it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but sandalwood yogurt is exactly what I'm getting just off the top of my head. And I'm getting this very creamy, almost like foamy texture. It's soft. It's not aggressive whatsoever. And again, it smells slightly like Santal 33, but with a lot more florals in there. There's something soft in there. It might be the muskiness. Maybe there's a very, very slight fruitiness. It's very difficult to describe, and I'm always on that line there that I'm thinking, is this placebo or is this actually the real smell? It smells like apple, maybe, or there's something like a very watery fruit, like a cucumber, like a sweet cucumber. It might be apple, it might be pear, it might be like a very faint melon, something like that. It's very, very watery, and this scent is mixing in with the sandalwood creaminess. The woodiness is there, but again, it's part of the sandalwood, and it feels like these petals of this white floral thing, this magnolia or whatever it is, are kind of giving this sandalwood even more bounce, even more softness. It's peculiar, I get it that it smells good, I get it that it smells clean, but it's still incredibly faint. I can barely smell a thing. It has a slight radiancy, but it almost feels like my skin is kind of like warm. It has this weird warmth that is almost resembling an allergic reaction. It almost feels like one of those creams which are eucalyptus heavy or peppermint heavy, or one of those sports creams that you apply maybe after an injury, like hot and cold or something like that. And you apply them and your skin starts like pulsating heat. It's there, but it's not really there. It's really, really weird. And suffice to say, it's a ready skin scent right after application. Rest assured, this is not a projecting monster. It's not a room filler by any stretch of the imagination. It's very subtle, very timid, and very fleeting. Maybe you just have to spray a ton of it on to have some sort of effect. In any case, based on my experience, I would definitely apply it on skin. On my skin, it has a lot more body, it has a lot more presence and volume. And volume not only in terms of projection, in terms of detectability, but also volume in terms of like boost, like sillage, like actual presence. It's not powerful whatsoever. It's very, very faint, but at least on my skin, I kind of can't smell it. I know what it's about. It's interesting though. It's interesting, and I still think that it's completely overpriced. Again, this is like a very, very faint sandalwood-ish style scent with a very delicate floral, with a very delicate musky sort of fruity note. It's, again, simple, weird, delicate. I appreciate the effort. I appreciate the intent. I actually really like the house of Le Labo, and I really proved myself wrong in that speed dating because I sampled the scents and I was like, wow, this house is actually really good. And despite thinking that they're overpriced, I just like the general mood and vibe of the house. They have this simplistic, minimalistic approach with pastel colors, which really speaks to me. It has this Zen meditative approach, which I really, really like. And yes, I fully understand that they can come across as a little bit hipsterish, a little bit try-hard, and a little bit like inflated luxury, but the scents smell relatively unique. I have one, which is Tenua 29, which was gifted to me by a subscriber. Thank you so much, by the way. And I want two more. I want Eucalyptus 20 and I want Santal 33. That scent has been haunting me since I smelled it in the Discovery set. It's so peculiar, it's so specific. I really want to give it a chance. I really want to give it more full wears. The sample that I got, I drained it within 2 days. It was super, super interesting. But unfortunately, when it comes to Labo Another 13, I think that that's really not worth it for me. It's way too faint, especially for the price. It's just too timid. It's relying on placebo. I'm exaggerating here because I know that the scent is there. I know what it smells like. It's just incredibly faint. And I'm not willing to spend that kind of money, the money that Le Labo is asking for, because these scents are also impossible to find at discounters, to smell like that. I fully realize that I'm not the target audience for molecule type scents. I just don't like that type of scent profile. But yeah, that's my take. It's really not for me. Interesting, cool, I respect the idea, but really not for me. Okay, let's move on to Bois Impérial on skin. Let's give it 3 good sprays. I have a feeling that this will be pretty potent. Immediately, like in the air, I get that Ganymede style DNA, that very bitter, metallic air thing. And that immediately faded off even when sprayed on paper, leaving me so surprised because on paper, all I got was that very beautiful, very clean, very clinical sort of woody scent. And there it is again. On skin, that metallic Ganymede thing is gone immediately. It basically permeates the air for like the first 5 seconds and then it's gone. Yeah, I can pretty safely say that Bois Impérial and Ganymede don't really have much in common except for that very specific opening, which permeates the scent of Ganymede as a whole. That smell is very, very specific to Ganymede. It's what makes Ganymede Ganymede. Bois Impérial smells a lot more like natural wood. And again, natural wood is a little bit stretching it because it doesn't really smell natural. It smells much more clinical. It smells like hyper clean. It smells refined. It's very weird, but it does have a distinct woodiness. And I feel that in this case specifically, the Akigala wood works extremely well because the scent is very, very airy. It's really airy and light, and that lightness is really turning down the heaviness of the synthetic note, the heaviness of that weird artificial wood. In comparison to the before mentioned Amouage Decision, this one here is much more light, much more likable, much more clean feeling. It's much safer for office use. And not that Amouage Decision is not safe. This is just a true Four Seasons signature office scent. It's really, really great. I bet you would just come across as clean, professional, and well put together. I actually really like this fragrance. It smells fairly unique. It's really radiant and pushing off my arm. I really want to applaud Essential Parfums and Quentin Biche for the job well done together. This stuff here is exactly the stuff that Quentin Biche should be working on. Modern, clinical, office safe, very, very likable, very powerful. This is the stuff that he excels at. Not traditional warm perfumes with a lot of soul. He just can't translate his ideas into that. But this stuff here, this is exactly his bread and butter. It's super good. All right, before taking a break, let me give these two another round of sniffing to really wrap my thoughts up, starting off with number 13. This is very similar to before. Again, not much time has passed, but it's remarkably stable. Very, very subtle, very, very timid. All I can smell is my other arm, actually, the Bois Impérial. If anything, number 13 has picked up on a little bit of a coconut lactonic note, and it might be a product of the sandalwood sort of feeling kind of blending in with the fruits. It's very smooth, but faint, like really, really faint. I think that the more I'm smelling it, the more my brain is adjusting to the smell, and it's kind of like accepting it. It's weird. It doesn't smell bad at all, though. There's no bitterness, there's no citrusy note, there's no acidity, there's smoothness. It's like pure smoothness. And probably this extreme smoothness is also aiding to it being so subtle because it really blends in with the skin chemistry. It almost feels like some sort of cream, like almost like an unscented cream. If you were to describe the scent profile of an unscented cream, maybe leveraging that placebo effect, you'd probably come up with something like this. I get it. It's pleasant. It's not offensive whatsoever, but it's really not for me. On to Bois Impérial. I actually like this scent. It's subjectively good. It's a cool scent. It's very, very modern. It's clean. It's very efficient. It feels very pragmatic. This feels like the scent you would buy if you would want one fragrance because you're told that you're supposed to be wearing fragrances. It's difficult to describe, but it's actually incredibly well made. This one also is very much lacking any edginess whatsoever. There's no acidity, there's no bitterness. It's very smooth, but it has a lot more character than the other one. It's probably due to the volume, like the actual projection and detectability of the scent itself. But yeah, it definitely has a lot more body, has a lot more presence. It feels more like a fragrance. This thing here feels like the aftertaste of a cream, like of an unscented cream. It's very, very weird. I would never wear something like this. Bois Impérial, I would also probably not wear just because it's a little bit too pragmatic and soulless, but it does have utility. I can totally understand that. It's actually really good. All right, I think I've had enough of these two scents for a while. I'm gonna go out for a walk. I really, really need some fresh air. I need to stretch my legs. I'll probably be back in about 2 hours. All right, I'm back. I went on my little walk. I spent some time in the garden. I picked some raspberries. I watered the plants and just chilled for a bit. I have to be completely honest. The wear experience for these two fragrances was fairly unremarkable. I almost forgot I had them on. It's been about 2 hours and change, a little bit over 2 hours. I put a timer. Otherwise, without the timer, I would have completely lost track of time. These two scents were just kind of like in the background. Well, these two. I have to say specifically it was the Bois Impérial, the Labo. Unless I would bring my nose up to my arm, it was fairly undetectable. Outside, again, with a mixture of smells and odors which are outside in the garden, it really, really was incredibly faint. The Bois Impérial is still detectable in the air. Every now and then I would get a whiff, so I am kind of satisfied, except for the fact that the scent profile, again, comes across as sterile, utilitarian. It's very, very pragmatic. Again, Bois Impérial is a really great fragrance. It's objectively incredibly well made. It just comes across as soulless. It's gray, it's desaturated, it's emotionless. It's pragmatic and utilitarian to a degree that it smells like a fragrance that someone would wear because they're told to wear a fragrance. It's almost clinical, it's military, it's weird, it's not something that I would wear whatsoever. And I regard myself as a very pragmatic and utilitarian person when it comes to most stuff. But when it comes to fragrances, I really want to be told a story. And I'm looking at my shelf here and there's so much stuff which is so fun, artistic and creative. And Bois Impérial would stick out like a sore thumb. It's just very, very not me. Look, I totally get it. It's incredibly well made, as I said before, but this is exactly the type of perfume that I would recommend to the person that doesn't care about the language and art of perfumery, that doesn't care to explore. This is the type of fragrance that I would recommend to the guy that just wants to come across as clean, elegant, well put together, well groomed in the office. It's so practical, so pragmatic that it almost comes across as psychopathic. And this is the kind of fragrance that I can picture someone like Patrick Bateman from American Psycho wearing. It's so gray, so emotionless. It's such a weird fragrance. In a way, I have to applaud it for what it is because it's extremely well made in that regard. It didn't really evolve much. It's more of the same thing. It's very persistent. It's very predictable. It's stable and confident in what it is. It doesn't pretend to be anything else. In comparison, Ganymede is much more soulful. It's much more characterful. This is like the emotionless brother of Ganymede. It doesn't have any of the edginess. It doesn't have any of the special effect of Ganymede. This is just bland. Bland in the best possible way if you're into that. But if you're into a little bit more artistry, if you're into a little bit more chemistry, if you're into a little bit more edginess, this is really not for you. I get it. Again, I get why it's so sold because there's a lot of people that just don't care about perfumery. They just want something utilitarian that lasts a long time, that smells decent, that smells well put together, and that has a fairly universal smell that is not necessarily recognizable, not easy to pinpoint. I bet that this in the air smells absolutely amazing, and I can totally see how it would gather compliments, especially if you're well put together, well groomed, well dressed. This would work absolutely fantastically. On the other hand, pun intended, we have the fairly unremarkable Another 13 by Le Labo. Again, I do think that this is by design. I think that this is designed to smell this very specific way. Not really like a fragrance, more like a skincare product or like a lotion. I think this is designed to give your skin this weird sandalwood, creamy, fruity, musky thing. And it's remarkably persistent. Actually, it smells exactly the same as I first sprayed it on, in volume that is. It's still very faint. You really have to get your nose into your skin to really perceive the scent, but it's really, really stable. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. Scent profile wise, there are some changes though. Those fruity musky notes are almost completely gone. I don't get any fruity juiciness, and it's been almost replaced by this bitter woodiness, kind of resembling Isoe Super. It smells a little bit like the Drydown of Tertermes Eau de Toilette. It has a little bit of that weird ashy vetiver-like smell. It's a lot more masculine. It's a lot more detectable because paradoxically, this bitterness created some edginess. And it's not really sitting in your skin now anymore, it's sitting on your skin. As I said before, I can totally appreciate the concept, I really respect the idea, but I wouldn't necessarily wear it because it just takes up skin time. And skin time is limited when you have a lot of fragrances. You really want to wear a lot of stuff, you want to rotate stuff out, and this is just not worth my time. It's so insanely faint. And again, in a similar way to Bois Impérial, it lacks a lot of character. It's very sterile. Now, I kind of knew this going into these two fragrances, that these were probably going to come across as very, very clinical and very emotionless, and that's kind of the point. And once again, I do applaud the concept. They're extremely well done in this regard, but they're just not for me. These have this weird wear experience which resembles a transparent veil over a person, a veil that doesn't add anything. It doesn't add a character, color, you can't match it to anything. It has the same utility factor as like a transparent phone case. It's just there to protect. I would never compliment a person wearing these just because they're so emotionless, so practical. It's like a pure accessory. Again, super, super well done, but they're really not for me. I realize that I'm coming across as fairly adamant, but this is probably due to the fact that I see perfumery as an art form, as a creative communication tool, as a means to express ourselves. And these are emotionless. They go in the background like static, like white noise. They fade off in the distance. Again, they're super well made. They do exactly what they say they do, and they're just not for me. I would never pull something like this off. But do I recommend them? Well, the Le Labo is objectively overpriced, especially for what it is. It's incredibly faint, and unless you're made of money, and unless you're a fan of Le Labo, I would stay away. Bois Impérial by Essential Parfums, on the other hand, is actually quite remarkably well priced. I think that you can get 100 ml for about 80 bucks, which is super, super good. The scent itself is also amazing. It's powerful, it's long lasting, it smells classy, clean, sophisticated. You can probably signature scent this year round. It's really, really great. If you're into pragmatic, practical scents, this is pretty much a no-brainer. It's super good. And this would be my recommendation for any of those people that are out there looking for the ultimate masculine signature scent. It's really exceptionally good. Again, kudos to Essential Parfums for directing Quentin Biche at something that he's the best at. This is exactly his scent profile. Overall, smelling these fragrances was super fun. It was long due. I needed to get my nose on these even just for reference. Are they fragrances that I plan on buying or plan on wearing? Not really, they're really not for me, but I do really respect the scent profiles, I respect the perfumers, I respect the intent. The execution is pretty much flawless on both of them. One is a little bit overpriced in my opinion, the other one is almost objectively a bargain, and I do really recommend looking into these if these sound interesting. Get yourself samples though, do not blind buy these because you could be setting yourself up for disappointment, especially for the Le Labo. If you're expecting a fragrance to push off the skin and to be very radiant, that will disappoint you. If you're expecting Ganymede from Bois Impérial, you might be disappointed. It's similar to Ganymede, but Ganymede has so much more character, has so much more edginess. It has a personality. Bois Impérial is like the filtered, distilled version of Ganymede. It's not Ganymede cheap, it's not a discounted Ganymede. It's just a different thing. It's designed to be a different thing. I really, really like Ganymede, and I think it's one of the best fragrances to come out recently just because it has that character. Bois Impérial, it's really not for me, but it's objectively a super good fragrance for a very, very good price. Overall, again, fun times. Very grateful to be smelling this stuff. I guess that's it. Have you had any experience with either? I think that a lot of you like either Another 13 or the Bois Impérial. I specifically know someone who likes the Bois Impérial. Leave a comment down below. Tell me about your experience. Tell me about your thoughts. I'm all ears. If you like this type of content, if you like my approach to video, feel free to subscribe. It's always massively appreciated and helps the channel. If you want to interact with me, leave a comment, suggestion, opinion, or anything else down below. I always reply and I always keep the conversation open. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. It's never taken for granted. Many more videos to come, many more first impressions to come. Leave a comment down below for the fragrances that you want me to showcase. See you in the next one and cheers.